today. We're going to talk about like letting things be good, even when they're not perfect. And like, I think this really applies to the online space right now. I feel like this time of year, there's so much of like the Black Friday noise, and then there's so much of the like what's coming and industry predictions. And again, like, I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm like, I think I said this in the email, like, I'm gonna do one of those too. Um, Anytime after Remembrance Day is fair game. Okay, I like that. Take the win. I'm totally taking that win. Oh, Julie is an after Thanksgiving girl. Okay, fine. Kenny can have someone on his side, I suppose. But yeah, I just feel like this year, like this time of year, always ramps up in that. And then I think also like we've just been in a year where a lot has changed. And so I think like it's just this constant conversation. But what I find really interesting is how much I think our industry, and I talk about this like in some version every way, like our industry struggles to hold both. Like we really struggle to be able to be like, oh, things have changed. And equally, like that doesn't mean my business has to be in a bad place. And I really feel like we have to like do that more. I think that there tends to be like two groups. Hold on, I want to say what Kate said. Kate said my husband is like Father Christmas. It's his favorite holiday and he goes all out before Thanksgiving, but we've all been sick. Oh, so relate to it. I'm so sorry. Love that he is like Father Christmas. So that is a win, my friend. Hey Alyssa. So yeah, I just feel like there becomes like two groups in our industry. So one is like, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff happening, things are changing, blah, blah, blah. And it feels a little doomy gloomy. And then there's this other group that's like, don't listen to anyone that's saying anything like that. Like almost like yes to being delusional, but it's like almost like be so delusional, we're gonna pretend like there aren't like industry patterns and shifts. Um, and I think like as with everything, the answer is always in the middle. Like really smart business owners pay attention to consumer behavior changes, industry shifts, like what's happening, what's changing, like that is a requirement. And equally, really smart business owners also recognize that often those are the times where growth can happen, where you can capitalize on what's changing, where you can still have amazing results. Like I I find it really hard, to be honest, to like understand how it's not obvious that both go together. And I don't say that in like, oh, I'm just like so up here and everyone's down here kind of thing. I just like genuinely, my brain like really does operate very much in the middle ground. And I'm like, truly, I'm like, yeah, but isn't it so obvious that like, in order to believe in like your delusional ability to succeed, don't you almost have to believe in your delusional ability to adapt to industry changes? Like, it feels like those are so intertwined to me. Like, if we really want to see ourselves as like very successful businesswomen and CEOs who are going to kind of like make it long term and all of those things, like we really do have to hold both of those as truths. Like, I don't think we can acknowledge being a successful strategic CEO without acknowledging that like industries change or consumer behaviors change. So I'm just here to be like, it has to be both. And we're going to talk through what that looks like and how to like make it work for you. But I just can't tell you how important I feel like that is. Like, I don't know a single CEO that absolutely crushes it over a long period of time that doesn't go, oh, yeah, I can see how this has changed. And I trust myself to be the solution for that. I trust myself to fix that. I trust myself to learn from that and do something with it. I think like there are people that get this kind of almost like delusional high for a little bit where they're like, oh, this shit doesn't affect me, whatever. And they can run with that for a while, but there's always declining value to that. Like markets catch up to businesses. Like you can, I mean, we know this, right? Like you can be the biggest business ever and the market will catch up to you if you refuse to adapt. I mean, I'm trying to even think like I feel like Blockbuster is such a good example for our like millennial generation. Like I used to spend every fucking weekend like at Blockbuster. Like it was such a thing. Like it could be almost like an untouchable business and but no business is untouchable. Right? You have to be a delusional enough to believe you can always adapt, but you can't be so delusional that you don't think you have to. Like that's the bottom line, right? Christina said this, I feel like I've been seeing more opportunity than ever, and I'm really excited about 2026. Exactly. Kate said this part. Like when market shift is when opportunities occur, right? We know this. Like in a lot of recessions and times like that are often when like certain businesses really take share of a market or when things can really pop off for some people. And so it's really just about like that belief that you are the person that can do that. You are the person that can figure that out. If you are trying to trick yourself into believing that you're a person who doesn't have to acknowledge that things are different, even if it will work for a little bit, it's probably not going to feel good long term. And I think ultimately you're probably going to feel really disempowered by that. So it is true what people are saying. Like the industry has changed. I've been talking about that too. And equally, I have so many clients that are having their best year ever. Like, and I'm not saying that in like a oh, it's because like I did something kind of way necessarily. I'm really just saying it in like a there can be things true in the market, and then there are things that are true in your personal business, and like really, really important to hold those as somewhat separate. They're interconnected for sure, but they are different things. Just because the market is maybe having a more challenging year, it doesn't mean you have to be having the most challenging year in your business. Just like I know plenty of business owners who, when the market was booming, were having a really challenging year for their own set of reasons. Like those don't always have to be so connected. They are interconnected, but like one is not always the same as the other. Okay. So I think that like that's a really important thing to note too. You can be in a great market and having a tough time, and in a tough market and having a great time. Like you really get to decide. And the delusion we need is believing we get to decide. The delusion we need is believing that we are smart enough, brave enough, well equipped enough, supported enough, whatever, to manage that, to decide what it means for us, to shift with that, right? Um, and that's what it takes to be successful. I mean, I think I especially have really interesting perspective on this now, being like 10 years into playing this game, so to speak, in the online space, is like things change, things shift. Who the fuck cares? Like that's what we have signed up for. Right? What I care about is like, have I been doing the things to continue to get the results I want? And if the answer is no, great. I probably can easily figure those things out and change it. And if the answer is yes, then I don't have a problem. Right? It's kind of as simple as that. Like when you've been doing this for a decade, if you want to do it for a decade more, that's pretty much the whole question. Um, Christina said, I've been feeling the general online space has been do less and get incredible results, which completely ignores the fact that to take advantage of the opportunities coming in 2026, it will require work. Well, that's kind of the point, right? Like that level of delusion that says, I don't have to make a change is so unhelpful. But I think what's really hard about that is you typically don't experience the negative outcomes of that for a pretty big runway. I was talking to somebody about this recently, and they were saying something to me like, oh, well, you could almost do X, Y, Z, whatever in your business, and it wouldn't matter because you have such a big wait list and you like established yourself in this way. And I was like, no, 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 no. I could not do anything for a period of time. My guesstimate would be like a year, right? I could maybe even a little bit more, but I could like roll on with that for a while because of what I built up. But that is still not comforting. That is not safety creating. I don't want to be like, oh, well, I have another year until um, I'm fucked kind of thing. It's more like, yes, you have some insulation there, I think, especially if you've been in business for a long time, but nobody has enough insulation that they can just decide not to adapt and never have it catch up with them again. Blockbuster, right? Like nobody has enough brand equity that you don't have to adjust. Again, you may have a longer timeline. Like someone who's been in the game a shorter amount of time might have a 2 to 3 month runway where I'm like a year plus, sure. But again, like who cares? I never want to get to that year. But what's confusing about that is some people will get to like the edge of their timeline, but because it's longer, they can't tie it back to like, oh, I decided not to pay attention to things shifting. Oh, I decided not to evolve with that. Oh, I decided to ignore things. Like it's really hard to tie back once you've gotten that far out from it. Um, so that's sort of the point. Like you can let things be good in your business. Like you can keep going, oh, I kind of know what works and I'm going to do more of this. And, you know, I'm like, I feel some level of steadiness. And you can make that right while still being like, and it's time to adapt. And I think that that's what people miss too. So what Christina is saying is like, there's such a do less mentality. And I think that this is what gets like confusing too, is we're almost like, well, I'm supposed to be doing less, but I'm supposed to be adapting. Like, how do I do all of that together? And I think one, you have to like make the good in your business. And two, you have to have fun. Like, I really think this whole idea of do less is so confusing because it's so suggestive of the idea that it's like not fun or enjoyable to be in your business. And to me, I'm like, I really am not trying to like do less. I'm trying to do it better. I'm trying to do it more with more enjoyment. I'm trying to do it with more intentionality, right? And I think that's what gets confusing. So it's like do less maybe, but like what if it was like do less better, do less with more fun, do less by capitalizing on what's working, but just doing less, period, usually doesn't garner the results you want. It has to be with like quite a bit more intentionality to that, and quite a bit more purpose and strategy behind it. Like it doesn't mean no one can work less. Of course they can, but like we have to be doing these things with purpose. And that's again how we let things be good is we're like, oh, this is really working for me. What if I just let that roll? Or, oh, I'm actually getting really good results here. What if I let those speak for themselves and started leveraging that more? I'm going to give you examples of that, but you get what I mean? Like, it's not totally impossible to like work less or do less, but I think that it's so often just not the right question at all. And really, it's typically not what makes people happier in what I've seen in business too. Like, obviously, you need to ring fence your working hours and whatever works for you and your family. But when I see people that have this like goal of just like do as little as possible, I usually don't see them really engaged and happy and excited and joyful and fulfilled and feeling their success. It feels like this nagging burden of the online noise that's just like, if you're a good CEO, you're whatever, like insert thing, like working 5 hours a week or something. And I think we have to get away from that. I think we have to be like, what if adaptation was fun? Or like, what if things could be great and I could still work on making them better? And the two didn't have to create so much friction in my business. Great one. How about someone finding it hard to network? I mean, I really think quite similarly there too, of like, maybe it's harder. Maybe people are more, um, whatever, hesitant to get a random DM and talk to someone or like make a random connection, like in terms of if it's finding it hard to network. But I also think then it might just be like, cool, if that's feeling harder for people, what makes them want to network with me? What makes them want to connect to me? Like, how have things changed in a way that I need to move with? Like, this is just like a really random example, but like some advice that I've been giving to clients that has been working really well for a few of my clients' businesses that I would have like never given just a few years ago is like paid audits as sales calls. There is a me in the past that would have been like, if like, why are you putting up that barrier? Like, if someone wants to get on a sales call with you, like if you know you can convert really well, like who cares if they're paying you $100 or whatever to get on that sales call? Like get on the sales call and fucking convert. And if you don't know that you can convert and you're scared of wasting your time, like you should get better at conversions. I would give totally different advice now. I would be like, people have a trust issue. So they almost like paying $99 for an audit or a call because it makes the exchange feel clear to them and then it makes it feel safer. And so if you can create that safety and trust where they feel like, okay, I trust that like this feels like a safe exchange. I'm going to get something specific out of it. And then I can make a decision from there. It will be better. And so I just say that as it relates to networking too, because it's like what may have worked 2 years ago might not be working now, but it's not like connection or networking don't work. It's really like what are the new ways to look at how it might work? And I think this is where people also get really confused in the like how to let it be good even if it's not perfect thing is like we tend to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, meaning like if sales calls weren't working, instead of being like, well, I need to get on sales calls to get people to convert into my high ticket. What can I do to get better about getting them on sales calls? What I feel like a lot of people would do is be like, fine, this whole thing doesn't work. Sales calls don't work, this program doesn't work. Right. And they would throw it all out. And that's like when it becomes a problem for us, instead of going, oh, what shifted with sales calls? What are like the number one things I'm hearing right now? And how do I work off of that? And I think that's how we can let things be good, where we're like, oh, these foundations are all the same, that they always have been. Like, I probably need a network. I probably need to build relationships. I probably need to be good at my marketing. I probably need to have a really clear message. Like, none of those things have changed actually at all, just the application of them have changed. And I think that that's what freaks people out so much, is they think like these foundational things have changed or they don't work or whatever. And it really makes it hard in business, because then you're chasing new things constantly instead of being like, well, the foundational things work. I have to, whatever, get in front of people. What are the best ways to get in front of people right now? Like maybe at one time it was email, and maybe now it needs to be TikTok or whatever. Like you can evolve, right? Email and TikTok are really not comparable, so that wasn't the best example, but you get what I mean. How do you navigate you evolving in your life? Like I feel like every new transition in life needs a change, adjustment in business, but that's obviously not true, right? But now with the industry shifts, there's like need for change. And sometimes it gets a bit difficult to understand whether it's my inner world that needs change or a change in my business model altogether, if that makes sense. Yes. Also, this is off topic, but living the ultimate mini course to maximizing results in one-on-one coaching, truly gold. Anyone who's thinking of getting it should. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's so nice. I think that the bottom line for me is always data, right? So that's how I know if it's like more of an internal thing versus like an industry or external thing, is to be able to be like, oh, my stuff is performing really well, but I'm feeling this internal shift. Um, like I'll just give you an example. Like I did a reel not all that long ago where I was like, I'm so fucking sick of talking about myself in content. But equally, I can see in terms of content performance, being a human who talks about themselves and their experience performs really well. So for me, it was really objectively obvious to see, oh, I'm just having some internal stuff about talking about myself a lot. There's not really an external problem there, where it could have been the opposite, where it's like, oh, I'm talking about myself all the time in content, and I really see how it's not performing as well. People don't seem to like it. It's not getting engagement, etc. Okay, well, then that's like an external shift I might need to make. So for me, it's always like, is it, is the data telling me something? Am I feeling something? And just using the data to be kind of like a level set there. And again, it doesn't mean that just because the data says things are good that you're not allowed to make a shift. But I also think, and I think this is the point you're bringing up, sometimes when we don't look at it so matter of factly, it's easy to make it so much bigger in our minds than it needs to be. Like, oh my gosh, maybe everything should, like I put that week where I was like, oh my God, I'm so sick of talking about myself. I could have been like, oh my God, like everything's shifting. I need to like stop this. I'm not going to talk about myself anymore. I'm not this, I'm not that, right? The industry is changing so much. I don't even know what content I like or what works or blah, 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 blah. And like none of that would have been true. It would have been so easy to make up that story. But the data like often keeps that grounded and goes, oh, this is just a story in your mind. Oh, this is just a personal experience you're having, or opposite to that. Like you might think that content's great, but like your people don't, that's not what they want anymore. Pay attention. I really struggle with this in content sometimes, to be totally honest with you, because I really like nuance and depth and all of this stuff, which does not always translate the best. And so sometimes I really have to watch that, where I'm like, oh, I'm really craving saying it like this, but I might need to shift that. And, or sometimes I'm like, well, I don't care. This might underperform, but I feel like saying it like this. So anyway, I hope that answers that. Like there's always like intersection of the two, but typically the data will tell you, and then you just get to decide what it means for you. It might mean you want to listen to the data. It might mean you don't give a fuck. Like, you get to decide. The other thing that I want to say on this is, oh, I appreciate that you have nuance and depth. Thank you, Megan. It's just freaking hard sometimes, right? In like a 6-second reel or whatever. I mean, I'm like trying, to do that, but sometimes I'm like, uh, it ended up being a minute long. It is what it is. But thank you. So the other thing I want to say about this too is I think this relates to results very much too. Like, you can have good results and still want them to be better, or you can be having a good year in a tough year for our industry. And it can still feel really frustrating. It can still feel like, yeah, but I want it to be better, or it's not perfect, or it's not where I want it to be. And I think so often because of that, we make up a lot of stories in our head about what that means. So, for example, like, I have a client who's actually having her best year in business, but she also really wants to grow more and fast. And it's so easy for her to go to stories, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm having a good year, but yeah, I'm having a good year, but, and then like insert whatever story her brain has this weekend. But I should be doing this better, but I should be doing this more. But if I was doing a really good job, then this result would be happening. And all of those buts might be true, right? That's important to say. We could always be doing more. We could always be doing it better. We could like, that's kind of the fun thing about business is like, we could always be making more money. We could always be doing better. We could always be marketing better. Like, that's never not going to be true. There's never not more money to make or not more things that would take you further. But what we really have to do in those situations is be able to hold the tension of both, of like, it's so exciting that there's more I can do. It's so exciting that there's more growth to be had, instead of like, it means something negative about me. And I feel like that's some of the tension here too, is it means something negative about me, and or it means something negative about our industry. Well, maybe you just can't grow in our industry right now. Well, maybe things are just too tough. Well, maybe the heyday of being able to like grow a brand like that is over. None of that's true. Like, absolutely none of that's true. We just love to create reason in our mind when we have like a perceived gap. We want to fill that gap instead of just being like, well, the gap is just maybe time. The gap is just maybe like time in the game. The gap is maybe like hiring that team member so they can take on some support from me. The gap is like not making myself wrong constantly. Like, it's usually not, okay, how do we get you to do 10 more things as fast as possible in as little time as possible? I mean, sometimes we need to do more, but I just say that to say it's really hard to do more when you're constantly making up reasons why you're wrong. It's so much easier to do more when you're like, oh, my business is really good. Like, I really grew this year. I really trust myself to keep growing. Oh, I already know what my other strategy would be. I trust myself to keep executing on that. Oh, I already know how I'm going to, whatever, massively grow next year. I trust myself to execute on that. Like, it really comes down to that. And I think that's how you can make your business good and fun and exciting, even when it's not perfect or where you want it to be. But if you're always looking for where's the gap where I'm getting it wrong, and if I could just figure out how I'm getting it wrong, then I can fix it. Like, that is not the game to play. I almost guarantee you the CEOs you look up to, the really successful businesses you look up to, are not constantly going, where am I getting it wrong so I can fix it? That is not what they're doing. They're going, what's working really well and how do we leverage that more? What's working really well and how do we capitalize on that more? How can we acknowledge what's going really good, learn from it, and apply it to other things? Like, that is where the easiest form of growth comes in. And I really think that's what we should be talking about when we're talking about like, oh, business can get easier. Of course it gets easier over time. You have more data, you have more information, you have more time in the game so that you can go, this works for my audience, let's roll. Duh, right? But like, that's really the thing. I think for so many people, they won't let good be good because it doesn't look exactly how they want it to look. And then they're constantly chasing it looking exactly how they want it to look. And then there's always a new culprit for that. And usually it's ourselves. Sometimes it's the industry. And either way, none of those ever serve you, right? Megan said you can have a good year and a tough year in our industry, hands down. In fact, like a lot of people that really grow typically grow in those tougher years because they decided to like step up for something, or they decided to like take a different message or a corner of the market or whatever. The people who don't adapt are typically the ones that have a bad year the next year. You know what I mean? Um, Doubling down on what's working rather than focusing too much energy on fixing what's not right. And the more you're like, oh my God, I should be doing all this better. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. That's how you start to hate your business, right? The more you're like, ooh, it works really well when I do this. I see this opportunity there. Let me run with it. Ooh, my audience loves it when I'm blank, whatever, on video, in person, on a podcast. Like it doesn't matter. I could just go do more of that. Like that is where momentum and growth take off. And then if you combine that with like strategy, consumer behavior, oh, it seems like people want, you know, more personalization. Cool. Well, they love it when I'm on a podcast and they want more personalization. What if I did a podcast series on each level of business they could be at and like what to do with blah, 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 blah in that? Like, that is how we adapt. But like, notice how quickly you could put those pieces together. Oh, they love it when I'm here, and this is what I see in our industry, and this is how I could solve that problem. Great. But if you're like, oh, yeah, they like it when I'm on a podcast, but like, I don't know, that might even be changing. And honestly, I just don't even have enough time to podcast. And I really should be better anyway. Like, maybe I need to take speaking lessons so that when I'm on a podcast, it's even more effective. And but that is the quickest way to stall your growth, because you're going, well, they like it when I'm on a podcast, but I'm still not getting everything I want out of it. And so something must be wrong with it. Instead of they like it when I'm on a podcast. So that might be a key, like a clue, like how everyone says success leaves clues. That might be a clue to my growth. How can I do more of that? Like it's so similar, but it's so different. And it's going to take you down two totally different paths. Equally, the kind of other crowd that we were talking about earlier, the delusional crowd, is basically like, well, I shouldn't have to be on podcasts just because my audience likes it when I'm on podcasts. Like I should be able to do whatever, and I don't want to hear anything about like having to like do something a certain way. Like that doesn't work either, you know? I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to like do what feels good to you, but I think this idea that like there is this level of like delusion that we could reach in business where like none of like we don't have to pay attention to any of this like isn't true either. I wish it was, but it's not. I think my business is a really good example of this. I really don't tend to follow industry trends. Like I've always been a one-on-one and waitlist girly, and throughout the 10 years I've been in business, there have been different seasons of that where like one-on-one was like the hot thing. And then one-on-one was almost like totally looked down on. And I've like stayed really consistent to that. But what I've always done is adjusted how I was serving them. Like there was a time where I feel like when people really wanted more information, where I was doing like a lot more, excuse me, set, what am I trying to say? Oh, I was giving a lot more value to my wait list. Like I would email them way more. I would send trainings. I would do like a lot more as it related to that. And then I realized like, that's not what they want anymore on there. That's not why they're there. Behavior has changed. Like what they actually want is just to like know what's up and like when they might get a spot and what the process is, and then kind of like let it go until then. So we adjusted our process there, but it's like you can keep the same thing, but pay attention to your process. I think very similarly with even like this group, like my entire business used to come from Facebook. And now I would say that it's, you know, a much smaller piece of my overall pie. That's fine. We just adjust. We just decide where to put our effort and attention and what makes sense and what doesn't at any given time. Without having to move the big pieces that work, right? Like it objectively works for me to have a wait list. Every piece of data proves that. One-on-one partnership model objectively works. It has given me a 7-figure a year business where I make millions of dollars. Like there's no adjustment needed on those because even as the industry has fluctuated, like those things remain constant for me. But what has changed is like, what do people want from me? What do they want to hear me talk about? What do they want on that wait list? How do I need to market it? How do I need to speak about the one-on-one experience? What do clients appreciate most about the one-on-one experience? Like a lot of details have changed significantly since I started, but those core pieces haven't had to change because I've been willing to change the details. If I wasn't willing to change the details, I probably would have had to change those core pieces. Does that make sense? So I can still be like, I have a good business and there are things I need to get better at, right? Like for me, I have a good business and I think I could do better at marketing. I think everybody could, right? I have a good business and I want to make sure my wait list keeps growing. I have a good business and I want to make sure that my marketing is adjusting to what people want. That might look like talking about myself more than I'm comfortable with. Like there are pieces to that that I have to be willing to go with, but none of that invalidates having a good business. None of that invalidates my success. And I really think this is what people miss the most. They're almost like, well, if I acknowledge the changes, I'm somehow making myself feel threatened, or I'm invalidating my success, or I'm, you know, in a position where, um, uh, yeah, like my success is threatened or I'm doing something wrong. That's not true. Just as much as it's not true to be like, things never change and I should be able to keep doing it in the exact way I'm doing it for years. Also not true. Really is back to like middle ground. I can acknowledge what's good. I can use data to support that. I can continue to see that there are probably tons of things I'm doing that are good and are working. I can also acknowledge that as a business owner, I'm never going to reach a cap in how good I can be at marketing or how much money I can make or how successful I can be or how impactful I can be. And that has to be fine too, right? I think that we all do that stuff to ourselves where we think like there will come a time where perfect exists. Your business is always going to be some version of good, but not perfect. Like, I think that's really bad news for a lot of people. And I don't think a lot of people will name that openly in the online space. Everyone kind of wants to say they've gotten to like the pinnacle and it's perfect. It's not true. Your business will almost forever and always be some version of it's good, but not perfect. Right? Um, and if your brain can hold that tension and if your brain can hold that nuance, and if your nervous system, which is also an important part of this, can hold that nuance, you will be able to continue to grow. If that eats you alive so much so that you cannot tolerate holding that nuance, it will be really hard to grow because you will pick one of these kind of like black or white things and really camp yourself out there. And that will keep you stuck. That will keep you plateaued, right? Like you might be like, my brain can't handle this nuance. And so I'm going to go over here and just pretend none of it's happening. And I'm going to wait. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And like we said, like you might not realize the effects of that for months or a year or whatever, but they will come. Or again, you can be over here and be like, oh, what's the point? If the industry is so hard right now, why am I even trying? I'm just not even going to bother trying. Fine, but you're totally limiting yourself. You're saying, hey, I can't be someone who has success even during a tough season. Fine, you're allowed to make that decision if you want to make it. It's not ultimately that helpful to you. So if we want a good but perfect, or a good, great, however you want to say it, but not perfect business, we have to be able to live in that. We have to be able to be in the middle of like, there's always more and it could always be better. And there are always going to be changes and it's always going to be evolving. And I got that. I can handle it. I trust myself to adapt. I'll learn new shit. I'll show up. I'll do what I need to do. I'll figure this out. That's when it feels good, right? That's when it feels exciting. That's when it feels like you're playing the game. And ultimately, I think the foundation of this is you have to enjoy the game of entrepreneurship. If you don't see it as that and you don't enjoy the game, it's going to be really, really hard to enjoy having a good but not perfect business. If you can see that it's a game and you're the athlete playing the game, and like sometimes you're going to have a great game and sometimes you're going to have a harder game, it's really easy to have fun with it. It's really easy to keep growing. It's really easy to keep getting better. And so this is just a reminder, like when you hear someone that's being like, oh my God, don't listen to everyone saying that the industry has changed. Like, fuck that. Like, red flag. Just as much as, oh my gosh, the industry has changed so much that nobody's growing right now. Red flag. You know, like the industry has changed so much, and people that want to capitalize on that can grow right now. That's it. Right. And I think the biggest issue with our industry, I think this was what Christina was referencing earlier too, is that a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to change. They don't want to have to adapt. They don't want to have to do the new things that it takes. And so it's easy for that to get a bad rap. But like the industry isn't the problem. The problem is, do we want to keep playing the game? You know? Um, because if you want to keep playing the game, you have to keep getting better and evolving and all of that. And that's going to be true in like anything you do. If you were an athlete, if you were even in corporate or whatever, like you have to be willing to adjust, up your skill set, take on new things. It's all there. It's just, do we want to? And I think our industry has gotten to such a place where a lot of people think that success should be guaranteed without having to do that. And I think it really pisses a lot of people off that it's not. There's like definitely a level of entitlement there. Um, and like, again, that will hold you for a period of time until it doesn't. Megan said you have to enjoy the game of entrepreneurship. Yeah, exactly. Like I think we really have to see it like that. So letting it be good is acknowledging what's good, looking at data that supports what's good, seeing the pieces of yourself and your business that are good, and equally acknowledging that none of it will be perfect. There will always be changes. It might be internally in yourself, like we were talking about earlier. It might be with your team, it might be with your offer, it might be with the industry as a whole, but that is a constant, right? And there's always going to be more you could do or grow into, also a constant. The work is holding it all. When we are in these big booms in our industry, I think the reason it works so well is because most people don't have to acknowledge that nuance. They get to like, does anybody remember this idea of oh, what was it? Oh my gosh. It's like my business only goes up. I feel like was a thing for a while. Maybe it's still a thing in some spaces, but it was basically like once you hit a certain amount a month, like oh my God, I cannot speak. Once you have a month where you hit a certain amount, your business will never, ever, ever make less than that amount. Ever. Um, and like when we're in a boom, it's easy to go, okay, that's true. If I just hold this level of belief and delusion, then if I can just make this 1 month, then I will never, ever, ever, ever see that number go down ever. Fine, we can pretend that for a while, but then when the industry shifts, that belief is going to eat you alive, right? Instead of being like, I don't need that to be true to feel safe. I don't need that to be true. Like I can have a month that's up here and then one that's up here and then one that booms up here. And like, as long as my trajectory is up, I'm doing a great job in business. As like all these made up things that are there to keep us feeling safe don't actually make us feel safe when the industry changes. What makes us feel safe is going, I will figure this out. I will adapt. I trust myself and I'll adapt what's important and I'll let go of what's not. Like, doesn't mean I have to do everything, but if I can know the right things to shift in my business and I can trust myself to shift them, that's all that has to happen. That's when shit's good. If you can believe I either will know the things I have to shift or I'll at least get the right support to help me figure that out, and I trust that I'll show up to shift them, you have a can't lose strategy. Does it mean every month is perfect? Does it mean it never feels hard? Does it mean you're never going to have to grow? Does it mean nothing's ever required from you? Of course, fucking not. But it just means that the growth is inevitable. And like, again, that's when business feels good. When you're like, oh yeah, my growth is inevitable. It might look like this for a little bit. It might require me to stretch in ways that are new to me. It might look like showing up in different ways. I mean, like, if you would have told me 10 years ago that the bulk of my marketing would have been based on me doing little 6-second lip syncs videos, I would have like laughed in your face. I'd have been like, there's no way I'll ever do that. It seems so dumb. And here we are, right? And I don't give a fuck, right? It would have seemed so important back then. It would have seemed like, oh my God, it couldn't ever. And I'm like, no, I'm just someone that'll do what I need to do. Like, I just trust myself to show up for that. Like, it's fine. So I think that's really important to see too. Of like these things that we sort of like make meaning around don't have to be that meaningful. The only thing that's meaningful is, can I acknowledge what's good? Can I trust myself? Can I acknowledge my progress? Can I trust myself to like figure out the problem and keep going? That's it. If you can do that, it almost doesn't matter how the industry is shifting next year because you trust that you're going to adapt. If you can do that, you don't have to get so worked up about like the algorithm and the this and the that. If you don't have that, all of that will feel really hard, right? Hey, Adrienne, she said, too many people were sold the idea that online business is easy. And even if you know that's not true, I think it plants the seeds of business could be easier and more people need to hear what you're saying. Right. And I think there's so much irony in it because I think when you think about business like that, it does in fact get easier. Right. But it's like, it's almost like um, that's not how we perceive easy when we think about it. Like the way easy is sort of spun in our space is like guaranteed, no questions asked, no adaptation needed, like all of these other things that have somehow become the defining factors of easy, when easy might just be like, you know what to do, you know how to figure it out, you know how to adapt, you don't get into that much mental and emotional drama because of it, etc. And I said, this has been one of my greatest lessons. This has been one of my greatest lessons of doubling down on what I'm already doing well and giving myself credit for it. Yes. Yes. And I think that that really creates this feeling of inevitability versus this like intense urgency. And I don't mean like we don't have urgency to grow. Like obviously we do, but the intensity behind it sometimes happens because we're like, I almost don't know why this is working. And so like, I just have to get it working as fast as instead of like, oh yeah, I'm like really good at this. This is going to keep going. Or like, oh, I'm really good at figuring this out. I'm going to figure it out more. Like there is definitely a momentum still behind it, but that intensity can get turned down a little because it just feels obvious. Adrian said, I think it gets easier in terms of like building a muscle. It gets easier to lift 50 pounds after you've lifted 10, 20, 30, 100%. And just the beliefs are cemented, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, if I've lifted 30 pounds when I could only lift 10, of course I'll be able to lift 50, you know? Um, but equally, if you don't know how you got to 50, you'll feel confused. If you're like, yeah, but like, how, like, I don't even know how I got here. Instead of being like, oh no, I know exactly how I got here. I like showed up every day. I adjusted my training plan. I did this, I did that. Like when you can see that and trust that more than you trust all the outside noise, business will continue to grow. It can grow during hard seasons. It will continue to be fun. When you're like, oh my God, don't even tell me anything I don't want to hear because, oh my gosh, it will stress me out so much I can't handle it. That's not good. But equally, when you're like, oh my gosh, I've heard something bad and now I'm not trusting my own growth. I'm not trusting my own discernment. I'm not trusting my own adaptation. That's also bad. Again, middle ground. Let's acknowledge what's happening. Let's decide we can do something about it. Like those live together. So forever and ever, your business will be good, but not perfect, right? Um, I don't know a single 7 or 8 figure business owner that wouldn't say the same thing. Oh, it's, really good. It's not perfect, but it's really good. And that the acceptance and excitement of that are really important. So I hope this helps. Yes, listen to all the predictions and all the stuff for next year. Yes, set your big goals. Yes, have these stretch things. And equally, don't forget to acknowledge you've got this. Don't forget to trust yourself. Don't forget to acknowledge what's good and what's already working. Like if you can do both of those together, this can feel like a really fun and exciting time of year. If you hearing predictions is going to send you because the other stuff isn't in place, you got to turn them off for now and you got to get quiet with yourself. You got to trust yourself and you got to go from there. Cool. Cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. Rachel said, and we have to remember that it takes time to hone in on our discernment and gut instinct in business. 100%. Totally. Like this isn't a day one thing, but it is a thing you should start practicing on day one. Like if you're like, what's one of the most, important skills I could practice starting at the beginning of my business? That's it. Right. And equally, it will take time. Thank you, Allison. All right. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. I'm trying to think. I don't think I'm gonna be here next week. Let me look at my calendar. Yeah, we're gonna take next week off for Thanksgiving week. I'm sure a lot of people will be away and are traveling and stuff. We're having family come stay with us for the week, so that will be fun. And so I will see you December 1st, which is fucking crazy. But yes, I'll be off next week for Thanksgiving. I will see you guys December 1st. And thank you as always for being here.